live. Welcome to a new video. For those of you who are watching live, let me know that you are here. And if you are joining me on the replay, let me know as well in the comments so that I know you tuned in. My name is Eunice and I'm really happy to have you guys here. Today we are opening up a conversation about how to stop being so hard on yourself. This was a really hard thing for me to master, and I feel like it took me forever to crack this nut. And once I cracked it and once I really understood what was happening behind the self-judgment and the self-depreciation, and when I really started to learn, I shifted the entire way I viewed the world. When I changed everything, I stopped even having this tendency to judge myself. I mean, every now and then it would come back, but it's not so much of a regular thing anymore. And it's really shifted the way that I perceive the world, the way that I relate to people, the way, and more importantly, the way that I relate to myself. So if you are someone who identify as a person who feels like you give yourself a really hard time, and you are super hard on yourself and you always push yourself and you put a lot of pressure on yourself, then this video is going to be for you. And my hope is that it's going to change you, and change your relationship you have with yourself as much as it has changed mine. So stay tuned for this. It's going to be so good. So I'm going to talk about some of the fundamentals of why we became really hard on ourselves so that we can actually walk backwards and undo it. Because when we start to understand how we became so hard on ourselves and how we learned to put so much pressure on ourselves, then we can start to understand why we continue to do it, and also just undo, the reward that we think we are getting. And one of the ways that I used to see things, and this really changed things for me, was that I saw the world as binary, right? You're either popular or super unpopular. You're either rich or you're broke. You're either a good person or you're a bad person. You're either healthy or you're very sick. You're either happy or very unsatisfied. So these are just some of the examples of just the way that I view the world, and everything had to be an absolute. So, just to give you an idea, my world looked like extreme polarities. Everything had to be on either side of the extreme. Whatever that was in between is kind of like nothing. There's no label for it. There's no name for it. There's no name for this place. It's just the in-between. Nobody wants to be there. You have to either be on the good side and the positive side, or you're either on the bad side, but you don't want to be stuck in between. And how this thinking actually came about, and this is so relevant to what we're talking about today in self-judgment, is the way that we have been taught to judge and label things, right? We have been taught judgment, right? We have been taught to label what is good and what is bad, right? And so whenever we're kind of at a place where we don't really know where we are, or we're on our way to something, we're kind of figuring out some things in life, which, by the way, this is the most part of our life. We're always on the way to somewhere. We're always on the way to someplace. We're always on the move. We're never really at our final destination. We're never really there until our life is over. So this kind of makes us feel like we have to label ourselves, because we have been taught to label things, since a very young age. As children, when we grew up, we have been taught by adults, to make conclusions. Well, we don't make our own conclusions, but the adults make conclusions for us, right? So if we have done something good or if we have done something bad, we either get a reward or a consequence, right? We either get a reward or a punishment, but nothing really in between. So if we're going about our day, we're going about our life, if something's mediocre, nothing really happens. but we'll know when we've done something good or we've done something bad. And so we've learned to label. And learning to live in this way, we carry that into our teenage years, into our early adult years, and far into our adult years, into work life, careers. And we continue to label if we have done something good, if we continue to name if we have done something bad. And most of the time, if we haven't done something like good enough or outstanding enough, then a lot of times we'll tell ourselves, oh, it must be because you're not trying hard enough. Why? Because you're in the in-between. You are in that gap where you're neither outstanding, you're neither an outstanding performer or you're not underperforming. So you're just kind of like, meh, you're kind of okay. You're like average. Now, the word average has taken on a very bad reputation. It has a very bad ring to it, right? People say, don't be average. Don't be average. Everybody else can be average. You don't be average. And this average is a place where nobody wants to be. But the truth is, in our life, we are always in the in-between because we're always moving somewhere. So if we cannot learn to be, and this is like what really changed things for me, is like if we cannot learn to be happy, to be in the in-between, if we cannot learn to appreciate ourselves, we cannot learn to appreciate our efforts, we cannot learn to appreciate our input, our contribution, our intentions, our heart, our thoughts, our engagement, our involvement, if we cannot learn to appreciate whatever that is in the in-between, right, between the outstanding and the failure, then we've got nothing. We've got nothing in this life because we will always be in the in-between. I am always in between the beginning of my life and the end of my life. I will always be in the in-between. I will always be between moving from one country to another, from one place to another, from one day to another, from one moment to another. I am always in the in-between. And if I cannot learn to appreciate what I have right now, who I am right now, what I'm giving to the world right now, then I will never learn to appreciate when I have gotten there, because when I got there, right? When I get there, I am still in the in-between. When I get there to my supposed goal, I am in between my past and an even better future. So I'm never really there, right? We're always in the in-between. So that tells me that I have to start appreciating who and what I have done right now. I have to start learning to appreciate the in-between moment, because that is the only place I will ever be in, right? So this is incredible because I realize that I cannot make myself feel bad enough to get to where I want to be, right? So in other words, if I learn to judge myself more, if I learn to push myself more, if I learn to work even harder, right? Or to do the things that I actually don't want to do, what makes you think that I can make myself feel bad to get to where I want to be to feel happy? I can never possibly feel bad enough to get to a place to be happy. Like, that can never happen. You cannot make yourself feel bad enough to get to the place where you want to be. You start by actually feeling good about where you are. And then by feeling good, by appreciating yourself, you start feeling better and better and better. And you start moving towards your goal, your dreams, your achievements. You start feeling better and better about yourself, about your contribution to where you want to be. This is a huge breakthrough for me. Like, this completely deconstructed the way that I view about the world, because when I stopped giving myself that kind of pressure, when I stopped making myself feel bad, when I stopped beating myself up, right? When I stopped whipping myself with a stick, like a imaginary stick, at first it felt really unnatural, because I was like this is really weird. I'm not pushing myself, I'm just kind of relaxing. I feel good about myself. This is weird. And I'm not used to this. But I started to realize my nervous system is looking for things to feel bad about. Like my mind is like looking for things to blame myself, right? Oh, you're not growing as much, well, because you're not doing as much as you used to. And my nervous system is starting to act up. But then when I made the decision to just let go of this pressure, I made a decision to really put it all down because it wasn't working for me, right? Like I wasn't at a place where, I was really getting the positive reward, the feedback, the kind of relationship that I want to have with myself. I was not getting any of that. And when I decided to put that down, it was such a relief. Like it was almost like I discovered there was a new version of myself because I get to finally like find out the kind of person that I can be without making myself feel bad. There was a more authentic version, and this applies to all of us. There is always a more authentic version of you. There is a truer level of you. There is like that essence. There's that essence of you that is hiding just underneath the layer of all that pressure you've been giving yourself. And once you rip off this pressure that you have always been, kind of like suppressing yourself and you've been putting on yourself, this weight that you've been putting on yourself, when you rip that off, you find out who you really are. You find out what you're really driven about, what you're really passionate about, what you would do even if nobody and no one was giving you pressure. And even if you were not giving pressure to yourself, you would still want to pursue it. There's this more powerful and more authentic and more passionate version of you that is lying underneath without all this pressure. When you decide that I don't want to operate this way anymore because it no longer serves me, and I actually know that I can be this person, I can be the best version of myself without making myself feel bad. And I would still grow and I would still evolve and I would still pursue my desires anyways, right? There's this new version of you. And so what we're telling ourselves when we give ourselves a lot of pressure is the message that I don't trust myself to grow. If I don't give myself pressure, I don't trust myself to grow. If I don't beat myself up, I don't trust myself that I wouldn't improve, right? That is the subliminal message that we are sending ourselves, the subconscious message that we're sending ourselves. But what we want to do is this new reality. And I love this part so much because this is all about like really getting back in touch with who you are, right? You being back in touch with, I trust myself that even if I don't put pressure on myself and even if I don't make myself feel bad, I will still pursue the things that I want. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like if we could all find this version of ourselves. But we have to first put down the heavy baggage of pressure that we have been carrying on our backs all along, right? It's a scary thing because a lot of us have been trained to think that if I don't make myself feel bad, I will never grow. I'm so lazy, I will never do it, right? How many of you have this opinion of yourself? Or like, if I don't push myself, I'll never get myself to the gym. But instead, what if I trust the well-being in me so much. I trust the source within me so much. I trust the life force within me so much that I know I want to pursue health. I want to pursue the most vibrant lifestyle. I want to pursue activeness in my energy. I want to pursue vitality, right? Without forcing myself to go to the gym, without feeling guilty if I don't go to the gym. I'm just using that as an example. But what if I am driven and motivated by my passion for life? then there's no need to feel bad. You will still pursue the things that you want. You will still pursue your growth without making yourself feel horrible. And so when I got really fed up, the one thing that I asked myself, and I'm going to be asking you the same question as well, because this changed the way that I talk to myself, and I stopped assuming that I was doing a bad job. I stopped assuming that I was not giving enough. I stopped assuming that I'm not good enough or worthy enough as a person. When I asked myself, what's the whole purpose of this? Like if I were to beat myself up, what's the point of this? I make myself feel bad. And then I kind of like repeat this perpetual cycle until I make myself feel worse, because now I'm talking horribly to myself, and I make myself feel really small. What's the point of all of this? Like, why do I keep wanting to prove to myself that I'm not good enough as a person, or I can't get anywhere in my life, or I can't change anything, or I'm not determined enough to remove a bad habit? Like, what is the point of all of this? And I asked myself this, and I was like, yeah, you know what? There really is no point. It's not doing me any good. It's not doing my soul any good, right? So I want to ask you, what if you realize that in your truest nature, you would pursue life, you would pursue your dreams, you would pursue your desires and your goals without all this additional pressure that you were giving yourself anyways? What if you knew that? What if you knew that beating yourself up doesn't make you a more driven person? When I asked myself that, I was like, oh my God, you're right. I don't need that. I don't need that pressure anymore. Like, it worked for me at some point in my life, but it's not giving me the kind of happiness it's not giving me the satisfaction that I want. It's not giving me the kind of growth that I desire. And as a matter of fact, when we stop forcing ourselves to do things, when we stop making ourselves feel bad, we find out who we really are. We find out the deeper drive, the deeper motivation, the real passion that wants to be ignited. Not because we want to do things, not because we want to do things just to achieve things, but we want to do things to fill a place in our heart that wants to be activated, that place in our heart that wants to feel alive. That aliveness is what we want to feel. That aliveness is what we need to answer to. Like, guys, this completely changed my life. This changed the entire game. And it almost seems like, for those of you who are on this journey and you start to see, this change taking place, you're starting to appreciate yourself more, you're starting to celebrate yourself more, you're starting to acknowledge yourself more, right? You're starting to feel more on your worthiness. Even though on the surface, it probably doesn't look like anything is really changing. It probably doesn't look like you're doing anything different, because you're still pursuing things, right? You're still working, you're still trying, you're still giving your best effort. On the surface, it probably doesn't look any different. But energetically, you will feel the difference in the way that you relate to yourself and in the way that you talk to yourself. You will have this whole new beautiful relationship with yourself, where everything that you do is not coming from a place of self-punishment, self-deprecation, of not enoughness and you need to prove yourself enough, or chase after something because you feel like you're always falling behind and you're not doing enough. And it's going to come from a place of, I am so enough that I just want to radiate, that I just want to do it. I just want to share. I just want to give, right? I just want to pursue, because that excites me, that lights me up so much. That is how you start appreciating yourself, right? By connecting to that very essence in your life force. I love talking about this. This makes me so happy. Let me see if there's anything that I'm missing. So yes, just a couple of final notes, right? To wrap this all up, we want to stop seeing the world as a binary place. So we want to stop seeing the world as absolutes, right? Absolute black, absolute white, absolute anything. And instead really start appreciating the in-betweens, the journey, because the journey, the now, the place where we are, until we reach the end of our life, that is the only place where we will ever be. We will always be in the now. We will always be in between the past and the future. We will always be between the history and our goals. There will always be new goals, and we will always be in the between. And the only thing that we can really do, the only thing that we can really be happy about is the in-between. That's the only thing that we can really own, right? So that's how we can start appreciating ourselves. And that's how we can continue to stay present. So I hope that this was nourishing for your soul today. This was a really big conversation. It probably may take some time for you guys to digest. And if it helps you at all, feel free to just watch this video again and just take in the energy. Take notes if you want, drink some water, and just, take the delicious time to feel back into the appreciation of your enoughness. Breathe into the completeness of your enoughness. There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than knowing and anchoring in your enoughness, than giving and doing from a place of your enoughness, and really begin to celebrate yourself of who you really are, and find out, what you are made of. So that's it for today's video, you guys. I'm debating if I want to do another video. I feel like I'm on a roll, so maybe I will hop on live again and publish this video later. I love you guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Let me know what you think about this content. I want to hear about what you think, and I will be speaking to you very soon. I love you. Talk to you soon.